Namo Dhamma Shri Soha, O Namo Manju Shri, Namo So Shri, Namo Dhamma Shri Soha, O Namo Manju Shri, Namo So Shri, Namo Dhamma Shri Soha. Yedang Zogi Chuna La, Jiangzhou Bandu Dami Gazuchi, Dagi Junye Kibe Sonangi, Shola Benje Sange Ruba Ju. Yedang Zogi Chuna La, Jiangzhou Bandu Dami Gazuchi, Dagi Junye Kibe Sonangi, Shola Benje Sange Ruba Ju. Dangi Yedang Zogi Chuna La, Jiangzhou Bandu Dami Gazuchi, Dagi Junye Kibe Sonangi, Shola Benje Sange Ruba Ju. Dagi Chuchi Me Dora, Rolling Shi De Kembadi, Sangi Shindo Me De Uwaye, Koken Nanda Shinla Juba Ju, Itan Guru Rana Mendala Kandi Adayandi. Please adjust your sitting position to 7 meditative postures of Vajrayana. And think, all sentient beings have been my mothers. And all sentient beings have been my mothers for numberless times. All sentient beings are as kind as my mother in this life. Even though all kind mothers and sentient beings want happiness and do not want even a small suffering, however, due to engaging wrongly in objects of adoptions and abandonment, they only experience suffering. In my mind, sincerely generate loving kindness towards all kind mothers and sentient beings, thinking, how nice it would be if all kind mothers and sentient beings had excellent happiness. May all kind mothers and sentient beings have excellent happiness. I will cause all kind mothers and sentient beings to experience excellent happiness. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
So they just don't want to teach Monday night. Reaching in, that's a Joe, she never lost religion.
Next, we generate compassion towards all suffering mothers and sentient beings, thinking, how nice it would be if the body of all suffering mothers and sentient beings were free from the past, discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as pain, physical suffering, sickness, and problems caused by 4 elements. May the body of all suffering mothers and sentient beings be free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the body of all suffering mothers and sentient beings from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
So they just don't want to teach Monday night. You try to do it and not to try to do it.
How nice it would be if the minds of all suffering mothers and sentient beings were free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue, such as mental suffering, fear, and coarse and subtle conceptual thoughts. May the minds of all suffering mothers and sentient beings be free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the minds of all suffering mothers and sentient beings from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
What age is the what night? You mandanaji. While the thing was emerging about Chara, Chara, Jim, Tower, Chichi, Tower, Dovish. Did I see any Malamala in Shingla?
How nice it would be if the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. Coarse and subtle negative speech, such as telling lies. May the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the speech of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
What age is the one night? You mandanaji. Go to the Gish or Dubala. You can be true. Tata, Tana, Jim, Tower, Chichi, Tower, Dovish, or did I see any Malamala in Shingla?
How nice it would be if the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings were free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. May the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings be free from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. I will free the three doors of all suffering mother sentient beings from the class discordant with accomplishing virtue. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
What age is Sinjay Tanji, doing that the major Judatana, Jim, Tower, Chichi, Tower, Dovish. Did I see any Malamala in Shingla? So to some of my.
How nice it would be if all sentient beings were free from suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and its causes. Or free all sentient beings from suffering and its causes. Lama, please bless me to be able to do so.
What age is the one night? Sinjay to the tongue, Chico, and so good do all the doing Kusula, Yarana budget, that in Negas, Yanta, but the Sanji, Kumbala, and the Nivame. Yet the Nivasula and Yanta, but the Sanji, the Yabi. This is a Tanji, the Sanji, Kumbala, the Chin, the Shan. What did you go to the Chinese say?
Next, we generate bodhicitta. First, we ask ourselves, who should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms? I should take on the responsibility to free all mother sentient beings from the sufferings of samsara and of lower realms. However, I do not have the abilities to do so now. Who has the abilities? Only those who have achieved the perfect complete enlightenment have the abilities to do so. Therefore, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, by all means, I will achieve the precious state of enlightenment.
What age is Sinjay Tanji, the Sanji, Kumbata, Shah, and maybe seconds of Atini. Ranginika Daichi was the number of children, the mother of Kumban, who say Rochi to be Tantam changes. Ranginika Daichi was in Dojeka was saying of the number of children, so suppose never change. Continental is.
Next, we generate all-encompassing yoga mind. The aspiring conventional bodhicitta that thinks, for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. these transform into a complete white moon disk at one time. And the ultimate bodhicitta, that is one's mind becoming in one taste with emptiness, the lack of inherent existence, that transform into a white five-pronged vajra on top of the moon disk. Next, we meditate on emptiness for a short while. That I exists neither intrinsically one with, nor intrinsically different from the aggregates. Thus, I do not exist intrinsically.
어디가 뒤에서 따바르시 쉬려는 것이 무슨 기계셔 간이 되면 파시도 보면 이제 쓰도 가지. 아까가 유비 파시서 동 생각이 이게 무슨 것이 아무도 지지니 그러는데 내 상보서 제바대 신진지 뒤진 중에 그마다 잘 뒤치도 사바 동세에 보지는 주도바이나 예 유비 파시 안에 쓰는 거예요.
And as I always say, we should try our best to conjoin our virtues of our three lords with the practice of six perfections. And the first one is the practice of generosity. And generosity is the intentions of giving, or is the minds of giving. So I will give or dedicate these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma for the sake of achieving the happiness of sentient beings and purifying the sufferings of sentient beings. Next is the practice of morality. And morality is the mind of abandonment. So I will listen to the teachings, contemplate and meditate on the teachings through abandoning my physical and my verbal negativities. Next is the practice of patience. Patience, the nature of patience is an undisturbed mind. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, whatever physical or mental hardships occur, I will be patient and embrace it. Next is joyous effort. Joyous effort is a mind that takes delight in virtue. So during these I will take delight in these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma. Contemplation and meditations on Dharma. Next is joyous effort. The joyous effort is the mind that, meditative concentration. The meditative concentration is the mind that finger-pointedly focuses on any virtuous object. So during these 2 hours of listening, contemplating, and meditating on Dharma, I will focus my mind on the intended virtuous object and not get influenced by conceptual thoughts and distractions. And last one is wisdom. Wisdom is an awareness that thoroughly distinguishes phenomena. So I will develop a proper understanding of the words and meaning that I listen to, contemplate, and meditate on. That motivation, set a good motivation. For the sake of all mothers and sentient beings, I will achieve the state of enlightenment. For this purpose, I will listen to the holy teachings and practice accordingly in order to benefit sentient beings.
Oh yeah, thank you. 다 맞아 가지 뒤에 상대 진기로 세마도 먼저 사게 자와 빨리 니마 진기로 니마 따도 멀리 이거 봐도 진지 되는데 그게 일마 시행스로.
Yeah, so we have complete the valid cognizers. So today we are going to talk about non-valid cognizers. So the definition of a non-valid cognizer is a cognizer or knower that is not new and incontrovertible.
진기로 대라 간다. 얘는 다 간다 지시다 로시 태소 이진나로 마음에 빌어도 나요. 에스타 치마 진기로.
So non-valid cognizers, there are 5 divisions. Regarding non-valid cognizers, there are 5 divisions. The first one is subsequent cognizers, wrong consciousness, doubt or doubting consciousness, correct assumptions or correctly assuming consciousness, and mind to which the object appears but is not ascertained. Yeah, so now we are in the now we have started the non-valid cognizers, right? And non-valid cognizers can be divided into 5 divisions: subsequent cognizers, non-consciousnesses, doubt or doubting consciousness, correct assumption, minds, the minds to which or awareness to which the object appears but is not ascertained. So we have to understand that basically these 5 are non-valid cognizers. So we studied 7 knowers or 7 awarenesses before. So other than these 5, then the other 2 are direct perceiver and also the direct perceiver and inferential cognizers. So other than those 2, then these 5 subsequent cognizers, wrong consciousnesses, doubting consciousness, correctly assuming consciousness, awareness to which the object appears but is not attained, are non-valid cognizers.
이 하고 같이 그래 그 세마 많이 세고 와 팀이 세마 많이 되지 다 도시도 베리바데 다 간다 지시지 진짜 도시도 베리바데 다 도시도 베리바데 너무 지시지 진짜래서 와 어다디 담부디 뭐 쓰베죠 와
Lori Duni Deni Ngonsum Gitsema and Cheba Gitsema, right? Yeah, so other than these five, then the other two valid cognizers are direct valid cognizers and inferential valid cognizers. So come to the first division, subsequent cognizers. So the definition of a subsequent cognizer is a cognizer or a knower that realizes what has already been realized.
지시의 간다 다 제마 간디지는 제마 말했습니다 하고 가지고와 다 제마 세워도 스타트 또 가지고 유스타트 또 스타트 말하고 되는거라 스타트 말이 받침이니와 다 제마 세워도 유스타트 또 봐. 이 담보타도 또 봐. 담보도 봤어. 담보도 봐. 이 간디 또 봐. 이 담보도 봐. 제마래 다이 담보 또 차이 디 제스 기치니바 som바시 도마 같이 이또 봐이다 제마 자고요. 다 단다 지시 세워도 담보 또 차이 디 제스 제마 담보 디 또제 디 앉아 기치니바네마 다 제시 자고요. 또스 또 비리 봐도 나마페 공바 담보 기치 담보라 공바 토마 또 비 제마디 다 제마 이바지 다 공바 토마도 비 제마 되니마 데 공바 기치니바라서 받는디마 데 동해 로데 데 제마 말에 데 제시 자사했어. 어디 카테고리 뭐 마시네 야본와
So subsequent cognizer is a cognizer that realizes what has already been realized, right? And we say that subsequent cognizer is not a valid cognizer. It is a non-valid cognizer. Why do we call subsequent cognizer a non-valid cognizer? Is because being a valid cognizer must be new and incontrovertible. Must be new and incontrovertible. That means that when valid cognizers realize an object, it newly realizes it. So, however, subsequent cognizers do not newly realize it. It is the subsequent moment of a valid cognizers. Like, for example, a valid cognizers realizing a thought. So, the first moment of that cognizer is a valid cognizers, and the subsequent moment of the cognizers, they are not valid cognizers anymore, and they are subsequent cognizers. And subsequent cognizers are non-valid cognizers.
That the casing of the Pemal, that the Moneriba, that the Meba Junsi Katna, Jihin Temani by Jebasha, that never hated as you go to the war. Emage, hinge to the that the Moneriba, Sematella, Chichikas, the Chichi de la Roa, Sinidla, that the Mori Riba. Tato Maloa, Roa, Tato Maliri, but Timothy Roa, or Sado here, but Jiket Mulo, Jetsima, but just cut Shutaiba. Or that in the Sado Maloa loaded, that he did Sado what Chagama, Sado Maloa, the Canada, Tomato what she that the money got touch of Roa.
So previously we learned about the definitions of a valid cognizers is the new incontrovertible cognizer or knower. So by saying, then we say that there are three parts or three features in the definitions of a valid cognizer, right? So the first feature is new. So by saying new, or because saying new eliminates a subsequent cognizer and a valid cognizer. So that means subsequent cognizer is not a valid cognizer because it doesn't newly realize it. It doesn't newly realize this. It only realizes what has already been realized.
So, Semino the Hebal and Tema the Nepashin, the Tema of the Titan Rotarwa. For those who machine, did Semino with Gomara. Or that Sema the Shibishi that that's Tema the Chisun that the Yanjangiti, Logia Jizid, Yanja, Logia, the chance of saying, but Timbunia Chida. Tema the Chisun Tangua, that the Maloa the request, Yesun Tangua. But this one wasn't so much. That the Malaysia, but it seems to me. That's not the mere Jetsun and the Chihi that Sema, my visit Habosma. What is
Yeah, so this is why I go through again the important points like this. The definitions of a valid cognizer is a new incontrovertible knower. So it is it has three features here. So new, incontrovertible, and cognizer. And the first feature here is new. The first feature is new. So saying new eliminates the subsequent cognizer as a valid cognizer. So in order to understand why subsequent cognizer is not a valid cognizer, then we have to understand the opposite of it, which is the definitions of a valid cognizer. So since it doesn't have the features of a valid cognizer, it is not a valid cognizer.
我刚刚是机械的来讲，我说机械的要么是他多把机械的，我们机械你是来我，是吧？但机械的来讲，多把机械的，我们机械你对吧？我得要把机好个是吧？
And subsequent cognizer is divided into two: conceptual subsequent cognizers and non-conceptual subsequent cognizers.
那当不多把机械的，当不了，我这往年就讲呢，基本我这个这些的，这么大都是结巴的。 给今年吧，你那个多看的，多把机械的是吧？那多把机械的了，那说我这往年就讲的，基本我这个这些是，那当不你的嘛了是吧？多把机械的，我没机械你，多把机械的了，你晓得吧？我这往年就讲的，基本我这个这些的，这么大把都是结巴给今年吧，那得你，那程序员说过是吧？那这当下我们下去过了他。
So the examples of the first one, conceptual subsequent cognizers, the examples are a remembering consciousness or a memory consciousness, a remembering blue that is generated by being induced by a sense-direct perceiver apprehending blue, and the second moment of an inferential cognizer realizing sound as impermanent.
那这几把人看到嘛个，我这往年就讲的，基本我不准备这些事情，开上边的没多多让你进头的。 没多多少人呢，他都没写给没多你就不学不通了吧？没多通了吧？那这里告诉我打开上个没多，你就不，这里去通说他人家这些就来了吧？没多跟那把打或者现在瞧我去里不了吧？那把的呗，我打或者现在瞧去，我在这这些查啥的，是吧？都是都对的吧？是吧？我领导我了，但我这往年就常的，基本我不这个这些是吧？
The other examples are like yesterday we went to a garden and then we saw beautiful flowers, and then today I recall the flowers, or I recall the flowers that I saw yesterday. A very beautiful flowers that I saw yesterday. So the aspect of that beautiful flowers appearing in my mind, and that remembering consciousness, remembering the beautiful flower, yesterday's beautiful flowers is a conceptual subsequent cognizers. It is a subsequent cognizers because it realized what has already been realized.
Oh, that not so one hit eternity be chishida. Takanda de Dramata to be Javakijinibat. That Dramata is Javakijinibat and one hit eternity Marua, one hit eternity Mari. That Dramata to Javakijinibat, Tamuto Sinati, Jes Kijinibat. Kijinibat, that is O Simbarwa, O stupid Varwa, with this.
So the first example is being induced by a sense-direct perceiver. However, the second example, which is the second moment of an inferential cognizer realizing sound as impermanent, is not induced by a sense-direct perceiver. However, since it is a second moment of an inferential cognizer realizing sound as impermanent, so it realizes what has already been realized. Therefore, it is a conceptual subsequent cognizer.
다 도매 지시다 다 니바 도매 지시다라고 해서 동지 원비 내수 기지니바다 다 가서 기지니바다 찾아와 다 가서 기지니바다 또 심바 지르와 어디 지르와 기지니바 찾아 다 성디 엄마 기지니바다 가서 도매 지시대 치와 다 지당 가서 뭐뭐 지르 도매 지시대 지당 가서 비스마 뭐뭐여 다 성디 원비 내서 원비 기지니바다 라오디 다때 지당 가서 도매 지시대라 왕에다 기지니바 잉에 기지니바 장리 기지니바 nenjong에서 기지니바 that is some of the Jeshi Chadu, in a Musurwa, the Chadu, Omichiba Chadu, some one is one being as well the kitchen about the Omichibarwa, eating is Yingi Kitchenimba, the Chadua, Omichibarwa, Rari and Kitchenimba, Rari is Kitchenimba, Omichiba Chadua, or the Chishirwa, or Nanju is Kitchenimba, that is that Tomich had the Chishirwa. But that is our Mamoya, that Chilang did 10 years on the pigeon of genius in Dua.
So the example of the second, which is non-conceptual subsequent cognizers, this is the second moment of a sense-direct perceiver apprehending form. So the example of the second, which is a non-conceptual subsequent cognizers, the example is second moment of a sense-direct perceiver apprehending form. So there are many other examples that you can put. You can say, like for example, the second moment of a mental sense, the mental direct perceivers, a second moment of self-knowing direct perceivers, the second moment of yogic direct perceivers. So the second moment of those perceivers apprehending its object are non-conceptual and they are subsequent cognizers.
Oh, this. That was a new bagger. That was it. That was a thing to learn. That was it. That division to Savajua. That Nimba Loshid, that Loshid, that Loshid was the Shinjalo should be riba and Loshid things. Shinjalo should be riba. That you think it needs to Chimaji money, but needs the far. Pinjaloba, Loba, a Tony Ribade. That on the Shinjalo should be and Zini Ribade. That Loshid is a that Loshid was there was. You think it needed Chimaji Maiba, Nilu, you did the Nilu, the money Nilu, but the Maiba and Zini on the Dero.
So the definitions of a wrong consciousness. So we come to the second non-valid cognizers. Is wrong consciousness. So the definitions of a wrong consciousness is a cognizer or a knower that engages its object incorrectly or erroneously. So what it means is it is a knower or a cognizer that engage or that apprehend the wrong apprehends the object wrongly, engage the object wrongly. He apprehends what is not the nature as the what is not the object, what is not the reality as the reality. So that is a wrong consciousness.
Kanda Loshi Sewat, the Kanda, Maibala, Imbala, Maibans, another Loshi Sewat, Shinjilo, the Shibiriba, Loshi Sinisman, Imbala, Maibashi, Yobala, Nevashi. Loa, oh, that Nevala Yobachi. That the Lindsay up on the Lotus, that on the Loshi is a Goroa.
Yeah. So how's it a knower or cognizes apprehends what is the being something as not being something, and apprehends what is not being something as being something, and he also apprehends what is not having something as having something, and the cognizes that apprehends what is having something as not having something. So it apprehends the object or engages the object wrongly, incorrectly, erroneously. Then that is wrong consciousness.
Oh, that was a Loshi dish. That Loshi de la Kanashi Loshi Sinua. That Toba Loshi, the Tome Loshi Nishi or Ambula, Loshi de la. That Toba Loshi, Tome Loshi. That Toba Loshi Swada. That Dratan Toba, the Bilpatu, and Sinchi the Dratan Tobata. Drataba Mai, the Dratabanzi de Roa. That Loshi de la Chason, Maibala, Imbanziba. Drataba Roa, Drataba Mari, that Drataba Mai, the Dratabanziba. Tataba Mai, the Tatabanzi. Singi Taba Mai, the Singi Tabanzi, that Jibara Kandarwa, the Chama Jacho, Michigan, and that didn't want to try Jago news.
So a cognizer or a knower that engages its object incorrectly, erroneously, wrongly is a wrong consciousness. So it has two divisions, conceptual wrong consciousness and non-conceptual wrong consciousness. So the example for the first one, conceptual wrong consciousness is, for example, conception, apprehending that sound is permanent. So conceptions or conceptual thoughts or conceptual consciousness, apprehending that sound as permanent, then this is a conceptual wrong consciousness. It is a wrong consciousness because sound is impermanent. However, this conceptual consciousness apprehends that sound is permanent. Then there are other examples can be given, like for example, conceptual consciousness apprehending that tiger horse is permanent, and a conceptual consciousness apprehending that lion is permanent. So the example for the first one, conceptual wrong consciousness, is whatever example that you give, it must be a conceptual consciousness, conception, conceptual thought, apprehending something wrongly or incorrectly. So the second one is non-conceptual wrong consciousnesses. And the examples of the second are a sense consciousness, a visual sense consciousness, to which one moon appears as two moons, and a visual sense consciousness, to which a snow mountain appears as blue or appears blue. Then these all sense consciousnesses, then they are non-conceptual. So all sense consciousnesses are non-conceptual, and they are not conceptual. They are not conceptual consciousness. So how did the sense consciousnesses? There are 5 sense consciousnesses. For example, the sense consciousness, the sense direct perceivers apprehending form, sound, smell, taste, object of touch. So all those sense direct perceivers, they are non-conceptual. They are sense consciousness. They are non-conceptual.
somebody damato. That somebody gonna ranto in time is to think you the Tesson Chinis, that Tesson Chinis, that Tesson Diola, or Tamutsini, time is to be seen Tesson Chinis.
So then we come to the third non-valid cognizers, which is a doubt or doubting consciousness. So the definitions of which is a mental factor that by its own power hesitates with regard to 2 alternatives. So in other words, it by its own power have qualms 2 pointedly. So these are the words that we learn in lower texts.
단 데이터 총대의 집에 이진 나시에 다 태종자 총대 이진 나시 이 코디 소화해서 때 란도진 타니스 도바도 말이데 데나 태종 데이터를 타니스 도우리 해서 와 란도진 타니스 도바도 말해서 고로다 이 태종자 총대 다 이진 나시 여러와 이진 나시다 이 코디 소화해서 때 안다 란도진 타니스 도바마데 말해서 태종 데이터를 도우리 해서 와.
So, for example, a mental consciousness and accompanying feeling that have the 5 concomitances with doubt are not that which, by its own power, wavers with regard to 2 alternatives, because they waver with regard to 2 alternatives by the power of doubt. So, in other words, a mental consciousness that is concomitant with it and feeling accompanying doubt. accompanying it, they do not have qualms too pointedly by their own power. So they have qualms too pointedly. They have qualms too pointedly by the power of doubt. Therefore, this mental consciousness concomitant with doubt and feeling accompanying with doubt, they do not have qualms too pointedly by their own powers because they have qualms too pointedly by the power of doubt.
That is on the moment, that 태선들 that 이와들만 대다 내고와 이와들 간다 연지께서 대문지께서 찬이 태선세 손내고와 that is on 뭐 다운이 되는 태선 양고 야고 스텝을 차고와.
So doubt can be divided into three: doubt tending towards the factual or fact, doubt not tending towards the factual, and doubt that is equal to both sides or equal doubt. So by so when we go through these three divisions of doubt, then we will understand the nature of doubt better.
당부대 간다 연지 태서다 드라마다가는데 태성다 어세고 연지 태서서 연지 태서 다다가마다 다다가마다 대치 마다가 냐미 태성들에 간다 다다가마다 마다가 냐미 태성들 어디 연지 태서 들라 연지 태서서 연지 세와데 자디 프로 미다가 되는데 미다바로 와 자고로 뭐 되는데 미다바 미다바선다 다 되는 미다바 이바 나시 다 미다바 연지 되는 줘 되는 거로 반줘 이 태서서 와 어디 연지 태서 와 자디 뭐 되는데 미다바 차디 와 미다바 차서 다다가마다 앞에치 미다바 냐미 태성데 이나냐미 태성데 다 연지 태서 연자마다바 뭐 되라 이스도 된다 딜시고 연지서 되나 반주와.
So example for the first one is a doubt that things is sound permanent or impermanent. Maybe sound is impermanent. So this is example for the first one: doubt tending towards the factual or doubt tending towards the fact. So there is the doubt that things is sound permanent or impermanent. Then maybe sound is impermanent. Since sound is in fact impermanent, so the doubt that tends towards tends to thinking that sound is impermanent, then is a doubt tending towards the fact.
Oh, this. 다간다 연지 대문지 태선서 다다가 뭐다 패치 따바 냐미 태선들에 다간다. 어따디 패치 따바 왔으디 되는데 와서 대마다 바들이 대마다 많이 발라 되는데 방고 파 이제는 성방도 와. 어디 다다가 뭐다 패치 따바 냐미 태선사오디 되는데 간다 안주도 와. 되 다마다 바로 와. 다디마다 많이 발라 다다바 냐미 되는데 봐. 되는 거 반지로 되는 거 봐. 되는 거 반지로. 뭐 디기 상황들에 왔다 간다. 다다가 뭐다 패치 따바 냐미 태선데.
So doubt not tending towards the factual, and the example. Yeah, so the example for the second one is a doubt that things is a doubt that things is sound permanent or impermanent or impermanent. Then maybe sound is permanent. So it's a doubt that things is sound permanent or impermanent. Maybe sound is permanent. So since sound is in fact permanent, since sound is in fact impermanent, so if the doubt that things that or maybe sound is permanent, then it's a doubt not tending towards the factual.
What did you say? 다 찬양부터서 다 따가마다 다따바이가 마다바이 내비 다 타치에만 되고 같이 로베 찬양을 로데 찬양무치 다 따가마다 그냥 밑에서지마도 같이마다 같이 따서 로 휴치 못되고요. 다 찬양마다 그죠? 다 따가마다 그냥 밑에서인데 어디 찬양 손질을
An example for the third one, doubt that is equal to both sides or equal doubt. Then the example is a doubting consciousness that thinks sound is either permanent or impermanent. So there is this doubt only thinks that a sound is either permanent or impermanent. So for such doubt, there is no such thinking that no such thought thinking that sound maybe is permanent or sound maybe is impermanent. So there is no such maybe or probably sound is impermanent. There is no such stronger awareness. Awareness stronger than this doubting awareness. The only thing that this doubting consciousness only thing sound is either permanent or impermanent. So there is no awareness stronger than this thought. So, for example, like the previous two, maybe sound is permanent or maybe sound is impermanent. So there is no awarenesses stronger than this thought. You only equally think that the sound is either permanent or impermanent.
어디 지루와 당가서 대송세와 되는 거죠. 그다 대송세와데 당가서 방자 인게다 방자 많이 되니가 레고 대송 영무지세와 돼서 방자 인기서가 뭐와 다 대송 영무지에서 방자 인기 다 대송들의 양가서 네 방자 많이 게 그래서 가진 가서 싫으면 못 치달래 지금 동반지 되는 대송서와 장시 예 예잘랍 침무 실사는 거래서 이 가지 쉬리와 동반이 되는로와 대송서와 장시 아마서 벨렌데 여다면 다 렌데 문이 패치요 냠베 대선 서는 가서 옆에 반자기 처우요 말봐 반자기 처우요 뭐 군조 요가 매 패치 여는 거지 아마도 가서 난지 숑 선거리나 그수 치유서 지키게 시에 그래서 대선 시에 통화서 지나 대선 문제 견도가 말이 어다 대선 문제에서 반자리에서 와 이 현장 가서 대선이야 반자 많이 봐요
So regarding doubt or doubting consciousness, it can be afflicted or afflictive, or it can be non-afflicted. So sorry, when we say this doubting consciousness, it can be an object of abandonment, or it is not an object of abandonment. So it can be either of these two: object of abandonment or non-object of abandonment. So those afflicted or afflictive doubting consciousness, then they are the object of abandonment. So, however, they are doubting consciousness, they are not an object of abandonment. Like, for example, doubting consciousness that doubts about the meaning of emptiness. So, is itself accumulate merit. So, this is what we have talked about it in the Heart Sutra class. So, for example, doubting consciousness that things is coming cause and effect exists or not, probably exists. So this is a doubting consciousness. However, this is not an object of abandonment. Similarly, a doubting consciousness that things is three jewels exist and existent. So then probably three jewels exist. So if you have this doubting consciousness, then this doubting consciousness is not an object of abandonment.
당이들 계속 같은 디디원 보시는 거지. 다 랑이라 도바 있는 태송이 버리는 말에서 이처럼 듣기 좋아했던 거와 랑이라 도바 있으나 태송이 버리는 말에서 좋아. 랑이라 도바서 제가 도바서 태고 계시 시고라. 또 랑이라 도바 있는 태송이 그거도 무엇이 되게 이처럼 좋아했던 거와.
So to make us better understand the doubting consciousness, so I would like to ask you all a question. So if it is something having qualms, yeah, that which having qualms with its object, is that necessarily a doubting consciousness or not? This is the question. Yeah, so the questions, I repeat, the questions is that which having qualms two-pointedly, that which having qualms with its object, is that necessarily doubting consciousness or not? So that which having qualms with its object, is that necessarily a doubting consciousness or not? Anyone saying anything?
Datagamata, number the Tonkeji Yavina, the Tesson Universe, Datagamata, and the Tesson Tonkejana, Datagamata, number the Wachivina, the Tesson Universe.
In case okay, I cannot hear it. Anyone saying anything? No, yeah.
I would no.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Sorry, because just now I didn't turn on the how say
I ask something.
Sorry.
I would like to ask. Just now I don't understand about the moon. Just now the previous one.
Ali, ini di tadi tani nawa di orang je lah. Ini di aku masuk sah.
Ali,
di anda siapa jalan siapa?
Rita ko khatu ko leje diu.
Naso.
Te ngase pe nangkaliya tadi dawachi Yavina, dawachi malta ngase cita yang ada dawachi logro. Dawachi Yamarwa. Kan zamuli dela pe siapa yang ngase pe pasien dawachi logro. Kan ngase samsala tusen, ngase mila tusen pe je ni wata wata di siapa yang ada ni tunggu tua sini. Dawa ni tunggu tua. Tapi thumba de ngase mila cuy cuba de mungkin dawa ni Yamarwa. Dewa sudah di lo serius. Dawa ni tunggu. Dawa ni Yamar, dawa cima de Yamar. Cima de mewah itu dawa ni jadi zin deke de lo serius. Wedi lo.
So, we will talk about the questions later. So, to answer Effendi's doubt first, so you don't understand the sense consciousness to which one moon appears as two moon, the non-conceptual consciousness, right? Yeah. So, in fact, in reality, Earth there is only one moon, right? So for Earth there is only one moon. So, however, some eye consciousness, for example, eye consciousness affected by eye diseases or eye problems, then this faulty eye consciousness to which one moon appears as two moons. So in fact, only has one moon. However, because of this eye consciousness, it's a faulty one because of sicknesses or problems, diseases or problems. Then it sees two moons. So this eye consciousness to which one moon appears as two moon and apprehend that two moons, then this is a wrong consciousness, non-conceptual wrong consciousness. Non-conceptual because it's a sense consciousness. Wrong consciousness because one moon appears as two moons.
Thank you.
But
So just now, William said something.
I know earlier.
Yes, can hear. Hello, William. Yeah, can hear you.
Yeah. You can hear me. Yeah.
Yes.
The answer is no.
The answer is no. That which has forms with its object is necessarily or not necessarily a doubting consciousness, and your answer is no, is it? Not necessarily. No. Any tangi last. The tangi di kata data mita ni tu toba de teson yimene di kata ngi yu marwa tangi. Ini di kisah lagi coba tambo di rangi yu la toba ina. Toba ina ni di teson ingo mare.
Tu shawre ta imuguna.
Yeah, if it's not necessary, then they tenshi di shawre.
Ta imuguna karu shawre esti shawas.
Yeah, so. Yeah. Oh. And so you say it's not necessary, right? Then not necessarily doubting consciousness. Then please explain your reason.
A good example would be like the weather. So you're not sure whether the weather will be raining today or not.
Yeah, and the 공기 sensitive 샤 kata di namshi dawore. Namshi dawore na pena tesana tering kawatang matang ini dia di tending yo mari.
Di tata ranghe mas.
Yeah.
Di ni di logore se tuwa de. Rangi yola toba isna. Te tetong ibura igu mare de. Tani khatu pachi lojane koto ya asare. Rangi yola Dataga mata nyambe tendi topic kansa de kesorega mares.
Kansa de.
Oh, dataga mata nyambe tendi tonde keshi kansa jorwa. Data ina mata bai nyambe topa sange chi kansa jorwa. Di kesorega mares. Toura no te kanis toura ko. Kanis todero ko.
Kansa de.
Oh, da kansa trashila na di da. Dataga mata I data bai ga mata I nyamba tonde ke trashi kansa jila jan digo ta. Di kansa de kesorega mares. Todero kanis todero.
Yeah. So how's it? The answer is not quite right. So I would just to make us to better understand this, I will give you another example. A person named Tashi has qualms two-pointedly with regard to sound. Have qualms with sound, whether sound is permanent or impermanent. So is this a doubt? A person named Tashi has qualm with regard to sound, whether it is permanent or impermanent. Is this a doubt?
Kesorega mares. It's almost there. What's the way?
The Chokyi Do you use somebody? Anyone saying anything? In case the mic on our side is not working. If you all can hear me, then it's fine.
Yes, we can hear you very clearly, Ken.
Thank you, darling.
Oh, that did it. That means toba clear the dress. Ranila topi kansa de that teso marela. Roa.
Because Rangula.
Ranila topi. That Ranila and Kantan is topi kansa de.
Then they jump down with that over kansa de.
Oh, that data matai. Nyambi. Any tondi kansa joroa. That Rangi Yula Todero. Todero. Oh, Tendi, topi kansa de teso marela. Roa.
This one. That
just a quarter change. My didn't tray. But that not the Taura. Eso Mare.
In the mean begin then, conquer a lady out of
quarter lady. Yes,
so the second example that I mentioned just now is a person named Tashi has qualm two-pointedly, has qualm with regard to sound, whether it is permanent or impermanent. So it is not a doubt. So even though it has qualms with its object, however, it is not a doubt. So why this is not a doubt? Please tell me the reason.
Maybe it has to be a mental factor. Ken.
The 심중 인거래.
Correct.
Yeah, correct. Specialty correct.
Oh, Tetonina Deju Igore, Ganda delivered. Ranto Itanis to the Deju de Rola. What that Rangi Yulape, Chibu Kanza Samarang Yura, Eugene Eugene says Shingela, Rangi Yuri, Rangi Chiri the Dembadi, Eugene Sinisera, Rangi Yu, Chiri the Dembadi, Eugene Sinisera. That Chibu Kanza Samalape, Rangi Rangi to la Pe, Topa Yura, Rangi Yutan Tanis Topa Yura. What that Rangi the Topa is not. That has on you, Marias. That and the Ranila Toba in that has on you, Sushavres. That Ranila topic Kansa is. What that Ranila topic Kansa did has on Marias. That has on my the thing you Marias. Has on the thing you Marias.
Kansa de Katatoba Unile, Tesum Unile, Kansa de Tesoma.
Marias. Tesom my Tesu the Caliber Tesu the thing you Marias. That is not to go to Yabu. What's it?
Because the Rang Yu Jiri Tang Denba, the Eugene is yeah, so here's the second question that Geshe-la asked is a person named Tashi has qualm with regard to sound, whether it is permanent or impermanent, right? So and the Geshe-la and the answer Geshe-la gave is this is not a doubt. why do we say that this is not a doubt? Because a person named Tashi is an object possessor. So a person or a being is an object possessor. So the definitions of an object possessor is that which possess its object respectively. So that which possess its object respectively, then this is the definitions of object possessor. So we say that a person named Tashi has qualm with regard to sound, whether it is permanent or impermanent, and then the answer is no. So even though a person can have qualms, can have doubts, however, a person is not a doubt. A person can have doubts, but person is not a doubt. Yeah. So why do we say that person is not a doubt? Because person is not a mental factor. So then Geshe-la said, the answer Geshe-la gave, the answer that Dr. Go gave is correct.
That person in the shape of your stage, you will come to the Rua. That shape of Maris Stage Marwa. Rhina topic comes that the shape of Maris Stage Marwa. That person in the shape of your stage, you will.
Yeah, so as long as it is a doubting consciousness, it is necessarily a consciousness, is necessarily a mental factor. So however, person or being is not a consciousness and is not a mental factor as well.
Somebody that in the Jishilo Shiva Ruda, that was a Shiva Rua, Raya Shimbi in the Jis. That didn't matter.
So then we come to the next non-valid cognizance, which is a correct assumption. In other words, correctly assuming consciousness. So it's a conceiving cognizance that accords with what is correct, but is controvertible in conceiving its object. So in laureate text, when we learn the definitions of a correctly assuming consciousness, it says a factually concordant determinative knower that is controvertible with regard to determining its object. So the definitions of a correctly assuming consciousness is a factually concordant determinative knower that is controvertible with regard to its determining its object. So the definitions that we learn in laureate text. So when we say that is factually concordant, for example, a determinative knower that thinks a sound is impermanent. So it is factually concordant, right? So this knower is factually concordant. So, and however, why do we say that this knower, this determinative knower is a correctly assuming consciousness? Because at that time, the valid cognizer hasn't gained a certainty. So at that point of time, correct assuming consciousness is before you gain the attainment by valid cognizers. So you have this understanding. You have this understanding factually concordant as well, because thinking that sound is impermanent is factually concordant. And then you have this understanding, a correct understanding. So however, at this point of time, your valid cognizer hasn't gained an ascertainment that a sound is impermanent. So when we talk about a wisdom arisen from listening, contemplations and meditations, right? So it refers to the time when one develops the wisdom arisen from listening. So you have the correct understanding that thinking that sound is impermanent. However, your valid cognizer hasn't been ascertained by valid cognizers. So it will only be ascertained by valid cognizers when one is on the stage of developing a wisdom arisen from contemplation.
我的的情况是即使我的看到，你把这上面就嘛等我的眼睛呢，这是话，当眼睛呢没有是吧？那已经是话，那边嘛也有的么学有啊。
So correctly assumptions or correctly assuming consciousness or thinking that sound is impermanent, for example. However, it hasn't ascertained by valid cognizers.
那已经得了嘛，对嘛，那小很多，那人生没比一些，人生能干一些，人生忙一比一些，人生嘛都比一些，人生有着定了嘛不比一些，一些的那有是吧？那来是不一些的那些。
So it has 5 divisions: correct assumption without a reason, correct assumption with a contradictory reason, correct assumption with an indefinite reason, correct assumption with an inapplicable reason, and correct assumption with correct but unestablished reason. So the translations we learn, the words we learn in lower text is correct assuming consciousness that do not have a reason. The second one is correctly assuming consciousness that have a contradictory reason. The third one is the reason is indefinite or not ascertained. And the fourth one is correctly assuming consciousness for which the reason is not established. And the last one is correctly assuming consciousness for which a reason exists but is not established or settled.
那就一句的了，就是那修的嘛，的当不的，是吧？当不的讲的，你的话，人生没比一些是吧？当不人生没比一些的话，那人生没比一些的讲的是，那这么大，这边俺这了的呢，这么大半子不落，但是的修的话，他讲的的了过来，这的没大把人是这个老板的，这的没大把人的是，是吧？那这的没大把人是老马做。 这地方大把人捐钱的嘞是接修用嘛，大概的。这地方大把人哦，这地方大把人多啊，还等那个一切这那个是修的。这老板那些这地方大把人都不上的嘞，怎么的？我的一切是大概的。我的我是这么大把账，我账的呢是应该就这个修用嘛，是吧？应该这个要嘛，这地方大把人是老的，那明显的这个这地方大把人的老的，就是说哟。 我在这里没打把人多，上老板那些地方经理，他看的，我的了，那这用钱给你要嘛是吧？我的同步的这里，我用钱没必要接受的嘞。
So the example for the first one is correct assumption without a reason. The example is a mind apprehending sound as impermanent based on the mere words. Sound is impermanent is an example of a correct assumption without a reason. So because sound is impermanent, it's only a statement. The reason is not mentioned. The reason why sound is impermanent is not stated. So it's like a person say to you, sound is impermanent. Then just like what he said, then you apprehend just like what he said that sound is impermanent. Then this mind is a mind apprehending. It's a mind apprehending sound. It's a correct assumption without a reason. Why? Because sound is impermanent. Why sound is impermanent is not mentioned. You only based on what others say to you, sound is impermanent. Then you apprehend that sound is impermanent as what he said. Then this is a correct assumption without a reason.
Dramata Dramata Tanja Jivanji, Dramata Jose and the Maji Shislandua. Or that Tanja saw the Dramataba the Dushari, Dramataba Tanja, Dramataba, Dramataba, must not get a show. It's a tiny this Hako Dever. Dra Chuchi is in the Chuchirua. Daddy Mitabari is a Dushari, Dramataba Dushari. Mataba in the Shepari is in Juzita. Yes, soon. The song was the song sang through. Ja, some Chichinua. The Dramataba and Dushari, the Dramataba the Dugua, Duja. The Dramataba, Jusikas and Chepari. That's the Jusi. That's the Jusi. That and that the Dramataba and Duja Chibu Jeva, and that Chibu Mato, Jusiki Jeo Maris, Jusiki Jeo Maris. But that Tanja Tan Jeva Tanjigo Dramatabares and Zimbachimato, or Jusi some of us at the
So it is a correct assumption without a reason because sound is impermanent. It's only a statement. The reason for sound being impermanent is not stated. So again, when we learn debate, then there are three things. The first thing is the subject, and the second one is predicate, and the third one is a reason or sign. So the first one is subject. For example, the subject, sound. The predicate or the object to be proved or statement is impermanent. Then the third part, which is sign or reason, is because it is a product, because of being a product. So if we put it into a simple sentence, it will be like, sound is impermanent because of being a product. Sound is impermanent because of being a product. So this is without those words like the subject and the predicate and the reason. So when in this sentence, sound is impermanent because of being a product, then it is with a reason, because being a product is a reason to prove that sound is impermanent. So however, in this case, it only covers up to the predicate part. So sound is impermanent. That's all. The reason is not mentioned. So therefore, it's the correct assumption without a reason.
Oh yeah, that's how much you are. That can be maybe to go to the that mean by the Derda. Now, Jensen and Guy each. That Jensen and Guy each the Carzana below the door. Tension in Dogata, Dramatava is below. What's it? That day I'm touching also put it. I'm not going to teach you that. Did my decision.
And then the second example, the example for the second correct assumption with the contradictory reason is a mind apprehending sound as impermanent by the sign of it being empty of the ability to perform a function.
That the Kandilo was not that cheating Samashika, Dra cheating Rua, that Dramitaba, Dramataba, Tanjarua, Dujarua, Dramataba Duja, Dramataba Duja. That the Juni to that Junsin care, that the Junsin, that Junsin, you're the inner Junsin in Kawa, Junsin and that Chawa. That Juni to Naji, Juni to image cynicism, so Naji, Juni to image cynicism, no money. Juni to image cynicism, as you don't tear the Juni to image cynicism. That Jati, without das, that Junsin care is not Juni to race water. Deal over that. That tension into the Jetsun and the Jetsun Gawari. As not Jate Mitabare, Jetsun got tension into it. Tension into in a Mitaba Maiguta. You pay Gawan. Daddy Mitabare does. Mitaba in the Jetsun as tension into it. Tension into in a Mitaba Maigurua. Tension into Mimirua. Mutaba that no porva. No porva. Mitaba no porva. Oh, they Jetsun Gawan was Sandua. Then Gawan said, Jetsun and Sano Kaki Matawashi, Mitabari, Jetsun, Tensionito race, that Tensionito race, or Dramataba, some Jido Egypt. Tensionito, Dramataba, that Egypt is the Jetsun get our Jetsun and I in the case she woman. Jetsun and I in the case of Yoma. Jadi anda maro. Jadi ni tu jadi minta bareda. Kaisna jadi ni tu dia sih. Jadi tu kau dah. Jadi tu kau ada macam jadi anda bareda. Oke jadi tu dah jadi ni. Dah minta bareda. Saya hiji tu ni cium bareda. Saya hiji macam apa ni? Boleh.
So the correct assumption with a contradictory reason is like, again, the same example. Sound is impermanent. So sound is impermanent is the predicate or object to be proved, right? Then it gives, compared to the first one doesn't give a reason, right? And the second one gives a reason, but the reason is a contradictory reason. So the contradictory reason of because being empty, through the sign of sign also means reason. So by the signs of it being empty of the ability to perform a functions. So empty of being able to perform a functions. So this is the reason mentioned. So however, being empty of able to perform a functions is the definition of non-thing. So previously we also learned before, non-thing or not a functioning thing, non-functioning thing or non-thing. So empty of being able to perform a function is the definitions of non-thing. So since it is a non-thing, then it is permanent. It's a non-thing, and then it is permanent. Then it is necessarily not impermanent. So you cannot give this. It is not a correct reason to prove that sound is impermanent, because the reason that you give it indicates permanence. So how could you give? So when you give a reason that indicates permanent, then it becomes a contradictory reason to prove that sound is impermanent. So Chenjin Nudong is empty of being able to perform a functions. So it's the definitions of non-thing, and it is a permanent. So it is not a correct reason to prove that a sound is impermanent. So it is a contradictory reason to prove that sound is impermanent. Impermanent then is thing or functioning thing. So you give the reason because of being permanent, then to prove that something is impermanent. So contradictory.
That tension you do the journey can go out. I think Gawa can do the now. That tension you do shinty but yoma. Yindi charge yoma. Tension is that and Gawa Serva. So Najin Gawala, Tatiji, Shinti Mississippi trade and guides in his Tatiji, Shinti Missiba. Tateba, Shinti Missiba, guides in his, and that is Tatiji, Shinti Mission guides in his. That tension is the Danina Gawama to Shindita on the Yomari. Tension don't get drying kitchen high on Yomarwa, in Gawari. Tension don't get drying kitchen high on that in Gawari, Tatiji, Shinti Missiba, yes. That was a guide to that. Tatiji, Shinti Missiba, guides in his. That tension you do that and Gawaris. That and Gawasan, tension don't get drying kitchen. That Shinti Pachishaya and so on in the Yoma. Mazo, Umba the Mitabandawina, Umba the Mitabandawina Shinti Yorwa. Umba the Mitabani Shinti Yore, Karisha and Shinti Bakarishana, stage Pumbati. Stage Pumbandawade, Ubari, Mitabani, Nigarwa, Shinti Pachishandua. Umba the Mitabani, Shinti Pachandua. Umba the Mitabani, Shinti Pasushana, stage Pumba. Darchi Pumba, Much Pumba, Karina Shashua. What is it? Stage Pumba de Pubari, Mitabaris. That tension into the drying get the dish in which Chata and the Yoma. That tension in the what is.
So, Chenjin Nudong and the Jat and Gawa in a Yana Mitaba de Yeah. So this reason that is mentioned being that is being empty of being able to perform functions. So it contradicts sound and it contradicts impermanent. So and this sound and being empty of able to perform being able to perform functions. So these two are contradictory as well. So contradictory because there is no common locus between these two, being a sound and being empty of empty of being able to perform functions. There is no common locus between these two. So to talk about the definitions of contradictions, the definitions of contradiction is being different and impossible. The common locus is impossible. Being different and common locus between these two is impossible. So just like the example that I mentioned just now, sound and empty of being able to perform functions. So these two are contradictory. So why they are contradictory? And because there is no common locus between these two. So you cannot posit something that is a sound and at the same time it is empty of being able to perform functions. So to give you another example that there is a common locus between these two is like hot and impermanent. Yeah, so hot and impermanent, they are not contradictory. They are common locus between these two. So the example is a golden pot. So a golden pot is a common locus of hot and impermanent because a golden pot is a pot and it is impermanent. Other example can be the pot, silver pot of pot made of mud. So those are common locus of being a pot and being impermanent. So however, sound and empty of being able to perform functions, they are contradictory. There are no common locus between these two. There is no common locus between these two.
That's somebody shaji tale drama that ziblo tabas da de ga yije da yije ka jinse mangi bi yije jinse mangi bi yije de ta kanda do shaji tale drama da ziblo tabas de jinse mangi bi yije da de ta ba da jinse karesna ajari es ya jinse ke wa da de ta ba de jinse karesna ajari es da tambo de ma la.
Yeah, so if a mind that thinks that a sound is impermanent because of being empty, of being able to perform functions, then this is a correct assumption. Correct assumptions with a contradictory reason. The second one. So then we come to the third one is correct assumption with an indefinite reason. The example is a mind apprehending sound as impermanent by the signs of it being a measurable object or objects of comprehensions. So the words that we learned before is object of comprehensions, and because of it being a object of comprehension.
That the jinsi tikirda. That the metabari, culture jinsi is not that jinsi with Shayariwa, that jinsi mangi be using our that jinsi mangi baswade. That Shaja in a mataba in Chavang in Maris and that day. Shaja in a metaba in Chavang in my Shaja in the metaba in Maris and
Shaja Maimba.
Shaja in a Mari. Shaja in a mataba in Chavang in Maris, Shaja in a metaba in Marwa. Shaja in a metaba in Marwa. Naji, Hija, Yopa, Shaja, should do you China Tanjawaya, thing as Kazuma, to the Lord in the Loa. Hija, Yopa, Shaja, should do you, Che. Some of the Jiba, some of the Jiba. Or that day, that Jinsi, Mangi Basna, Jinsi the Diana Machawama, Macham Jizakazna, that the Metaba da, Yimbi Jinsekazna Shajari, but Shaja in a Mataba in Chagumus, in Shaja in a Mataba in Mares, but that data is as you quite leave it on that. You just did Mangi, the Mangi you just did, the shower Jinsi, Jinsi and Mangi on the top of the Egypt.
So the third one is mind apprehending sound as impermanent, then by the sign of it being a measurable object. In other words, it's object of comprehension. So to talk about this object of comprehensions, previously we also learned that object of comprehension, object of knowledge, existent, object, established base, phenomena, they are mutually inclusive. So I repeat, object of comprehension, object of knowledge, existent, object, established base, phenomena, they are mutually inclusive. So someone say that sound is impermanent. So he thinks that sound is impermanent. Then someone asks you, give the reason why sound is impermanent. Then you give the reason because of being an object of comprehension. So being an object of comprehension is not necessarily impermanent. So being an object of comprehension is not necessarily impermanent. So same goes to object of knowledge and etc. So because of this, since being an object of comprehension is not necessarily impermanent, therefore it is with indefinite reason, or the reason is not ascertained. So correct assumptions with an indefinite reason. So indefinite reason, or the reason do not ascertain. So when one thinks that sound is impermanent because of being an object of comprehension, if this being an object of comprehension is not a correct reason, because if it is a correct reason, if it was a correct reason, then being an object of comprehension is necessarily impermanent. However, that is not the case. So because being an object of comprehensions, it is not necessarily impermanent, and because it means that there are permanent phenomena. Being an object of comprehensions, but it's permanent. For example, the uncompounded space. So uncompounded space is an object of comprehensions, but it is permanent. So you cannot give the reason that it is an object of comprehension to prove that it is impermanent, because object of comprehensions can be either permanent or impermanent. So if you say that because of being an object of comprehension, so it is an indefinite reason, or a reason that doesn't ascertain. So the example that mentioned, it is a correct assumption with an indefinite reason, because the reason of being an object of comprehension doesn't ascertain the pervations, So therefore, it is a correct assumption with an indefinite reason.
Shibit Meshiji Sujitala Dramatavatu. Tadre Shibaderwa, Chida Jensema do be just there. Shiba Jensema do be just there. Jensema do be there. That Meshiji Sunja Dramatavatu, Madu things, Meshiji Sujitala, that day. Meshiji Sujitala Dramatavan is not, I was studying. Jensema do be just this number one.
The fourth one is correct assumption with an inapplicable reason. Other translation for this is correctly assuming consciousness for which the reason is not established or whose reason is not established. So the example for this is a mind apprehending sound as impermanent by the signs of it being an object of apprehension of an eye consciousness.
That Matabares, you could check out the machine to suggest that you said the keyboard. That daddy Matabaria. Inte Mishi Sujari is loca. But that the Madu is another Pechatanina Shoshi Madu was a Katu for the word. I was a Pechataman was the middle lie of Katuba. But Shochi Matilla Panther was a Pechatanina Shochi Madu was in Shochi Madu that they was in my door. That the cousin, Daddy Matabare, Jessica, Mishi Sujari, Mishi below the Dram Mishi Suja from Mares, Madus, Madu was in that Katu Center. Dram Mishi Suja from Marwa. Dram Mishi Suja Mayu, you say, Carson. Daddy Nashi Yamato, Mishi Suja Marwa. Daddy Mishi Tumarwa. Tumarwa. Daddy Mishi Tumarwa. Oh, them Madupas and the Dram Mishi Suja, Nimatumares, Takana. Daddy Mishi Suja, Nimatumares, Simi Tumares. Dram Mishi Suja, Nimatumas, the Jajan, they were also.
Mishi
Suja, Simi Tumarwa. Temaki, Timmy to Ever, Mishi Deva. That's a long to shoot him and that use for that that the machine is to Mare. Kathana Jack Nashi in the Jarwas. Mishi done to Mara, Mikshiba.
So sound is impermanent. So sound is impermanent, then then give the reason, then you say because of being an object of apprehensions of an eye consciousness or by an eye consciousness. So when we say sound is impermanent, then you give the reason of because of it being an object of comprehension by an eye consciousness. So however, sound, very easy to put this in a simple way is sound is not an object of apprehension by an eye consciousness, right? Sound is an object of apprehension by an ear consciousness. It is not an object of apprehension by an eye consciousness. Eye consciousness cannot apprehend the sound, right? So it cannot be established by a valid cognizers that sound is an object of apprehensions of an eye consciousness. It cannot be established by valid cognizers.
Jesse Madu is that Kanda Daddy Metabare, Jessica Michi Sujari, that the Jesse group that they Tanji Kanda, each as a coin, but Kishi Roa. What that daddy Michi Suja Mari, that the Michi Suja, but Simi to Maris that Katuma for that. That the Michi Suja, but Simi to Marwa, Simi Marwa, Neo Marwa. Oh, dear. That is swimming with the daddy Nashi Nijarwa. Nahi Nijarwa. Meshiji Simi to Marwa, daddy. Oh, dear. Oh, dear.
Yeah. So sound is impermanent. If you think that because of being an object of apprehension by eye consciousness, then since this cannot be ascertained by a valid cognizers, so it cannot be ascertained by valid cognizers. So it is a reason that cannot be established. It is a reason that cannot be established is the fourth one. It cannot be established or inapplicable reason. So because sound is not an object of apprehension by an eye consciousness, it is an object of apprehension by an ear consciousness.
Oh, that she brought her. That she brought the Tambo Damataba Junta Mare, Tambo Junse maybe, it is a Tambo Junse Shame. 다 니바 소바 시바스나 준세계열에 준세계열에 준세한다 지요. 다들 담보들 대신이도 간다 대신이도 야데 준세한다 말와 담보들와 대신이도 세워다. 자 대준세한다 말이스 와 준세한다 말이스. 담보다 준세한다 말이스. 다 대제세 자지탈에서 자작기와 대준세한다 그거 말이스. 대준세한다. 대지스 메시지자기야 대준세한다. 심로 들어와. 다 담보도 준세고로 여 말해. 준세 매비지. 니바 소바 시바도 준세를 깨야 돼. 준세한다 좀 만들어요. 알아와. 대단히다 이집기 시고로 어디시.
So we have already covered 4 correct assumptions. The first one, correct assumptions without a reason. So basically, there is no reason. Basically, reason is not mentioned. The second, third, and fourth, correct. Second, third, and fourth correct assumptions. The reason is mentioned. However, they are not correct reason. So for the second one, with a contradictory reason, and the reason is because of being able to perform, because of being empty of being able to perform a function, then this is a contradictory reason. Then with an indefinite reason, then the reason is because of being an object of comprehensions, and with an inapplicable reason, or the reason that is not established, is the reason being mentioned is being an object of apprehension by an eye conscious.
준시 저 띵을 먹어 비시스도 그 준시 여자 띵을 먹어 비시스데 그 준시 한다 여러 되나 그 띵을 먹어 제일 마시고 준시 한다 여러 되나 그 띵을 먹어 비시스 이렇게 시고 나봐도.
So the fifth one is correct assumption with the correct but unestablished reason. So the correct reason is mentioned, but it is an unestablished reason.
무슨 나지 그래도 메다바레 이미 준세가 제발에서 다 제발도 준시한다는 거네. 아무니 준시한다다. 맞아. 제발한테는 드라마다 보비다 제발 세마치고 맞아. 너지 딱히 준시키오디. 그래도 메다바레 이미 준세가 제발에 제발. 아 제발 이미 준시 때라더니 드라마다 봐. 또 제발 세마치고. 제발 세마치고. 그 준시는 하고비 되는 거야. 나단다딩 가서 유치로와 드라마다 로아 진짜 때나 뭐 유치는 근데 유치자래 마도 먼저 제반 세마키가 기시야지 요 말와 이 메비 진짜 가서는 자 메타바레 제바레에서 근데 준세 깽게디 바로 메디기 다 소소라고 지라 준세 한다 깨고 준세 한다 깨고 이렇게 때나 마법보다는 이 준세 한다 이거 신고로 말해 이 준세 한다 이거 신고로 말해
디 준세 제바디 준세 양다 이거
신고로 말해 왜 현다 되게 들어 자디 메타바레 이 준세가 제바르다 로디 다 소소기 준세야 제바디 준세 한다 이거 신고로 때나 뭐 준세 한다 이거 마히바 당이다 이제 다시 보아니에 마도 준세 한다도 셰비토네 네 전다도 셰바이나 네 드라마다 또 제반 세마 지우 두어래 다 준세 한다 이거 신고 말때 마히가 때나 마법보다 준세 한다 마히비토네 왜 간다 이제 다시 보아니
마시베 에네디 마법 때나 마법
때나 마법 그래 때나 마법 드라마다 셰바데 드라마다 그 준세 한다 끼야는데 그게 제바데 드라디마다 말다 준세가서 제발에 어다 준세 한다래 진스케르데 그게서 비 로사 미티기 준세 한다면 신고 마시어서 같은 이제 다시 또 드라마다 말해서 이제 다시 마도 신고.
So the last one is a mind apprehending sound as impermanent by the sign product or being a product in the continuum of a person who hasn't ascertained with valid cognition that sound is impermanent. So a person say that sound is impermanent, then why is the reason? Because of being a product. Why is the reason? Then the person say that, or because of being a product. So being a product is a correct reason to prove that sound is impermanent. So however, the person who say that do not understand that being a product is a correct reason to establish or to prove that sound is impermanent. So because of not knowing that this is a correct reason, therefore it doesn't ascertain. It doesn't ascertain it to be a correct reason to prove that sound is impermanent. So if the person later on understand that sound is impermanent because of being a product, So being a product is the correct reason to prove that sound is impermanent. If the person later on understand this, then the inferential valid cognizers that realize sound is impermanent will arise independent on this reason. Yeah. So a mind apprehending sound as impermanent by the sign product in the continuum of a person who hasn't ascertained with valid cognition that sound is impermanent is an example of a correct assumptions with a correct but unestablished reason, because although product is the correct sign to establish sound as impermanent, that correct sign has not been established by that reason. So that the person hasn't ascertained that it is a correct reason, correct sign, a correct reason.
Yeah, that is drawing a
Yeah. You have any questions?
Ken,
Yes.
the last one, the example for the last one, can please check here, a mind apprehending sound is impermanent by the sign product in the continuum of a person who has not ascertained with valid cognition that sound is impermanent or that sound is a product.
Also,其實嗱，呢啲啲程序有啦，他們嘅程序啲其實喺啲車上啲路途嘛，其實啲
Jetsun定了嘛不就是，对吧？
他做的是。ini 그래서 제단에 다합니다. 또 하고 다음에 다바 팀이 막 예배 강사. esteemed. 생시디어라 다음에 다바 팀이 막 예배 강사기 yogi 제단에 다음에 다바 팀이 로 다보로 아이다. ini 당보디 다음에 다바 팀이 예바디 양마 자 디 가서 제바 인바 세명 망예배
drama taba tini mangi be kanza jijilo drama taba tini ngetana de ichi chago mare ichi chago ma tanda de junse je tena ma ba ichi la worwa drama taba tini ngetana ko ichi chago
drama taba
tini ngetana ichi chago ma wa de mecha sinda drama taba tini mangi be kanza ji de shibi tala drama taba ziblo taba de de kanza ichi zang ma de wo mare ko drama taba shepa de drama taba junse anda de sing mare la imba junse anda imba sing mare junse anda imba ma shio sinda drama taba shepi tala drama taba bi tini mangi ba drama taba tini mangi be kanza ji ji lo drama taba tini mangi be kanza ji drama taba tini ngesona de ichi chago mare de ichi chago mare wa de rang yu tini ngesa wa tini nge hine sa wa o de ne wa sa da tini mangi ba lo tini mangi ba de jila pa lo di 바로 나고다 같이 미치 콜파 로디 자디 마타바레 주제 가자는 셰바레에서 파 로디 러사 디기 점 셰바 드라마다바 치밍이고요. 셰비다 드라마다바 치밍이고요.
제바디입니다 봐.
제비다지 제바 주제 디기는 드라마다바 치밍이에요. 치밍 많이 와이자 그 주제 안다 이거 신고요. 그냥 먹고 이 드라마다바레 남이고 다 이제 다시 또 아마도 치밍에서는 이제 자고 말했어.
ini kata jita kata di mitaba. Yeah. So the is a sound is who hasn't ascertained with valid cognition that sound is impermanent. So meaning that a person, sound is impermanent because a person in whose mind, in the person of a person who hasn't ascertained with valid cognitions that sound is impermanent through the sign of being a product. So because of not knowing that being a product is a correct reason to prove that sound is impermanent or to establish that sound is impermanent, therefore it is a correct assumption. So if this sound is impermanent, is ascertained by valid cognizers, then this is not a correct assumption anymore. Yeah. So if through the signs of being a product, valid cognitions ascertain that sound is impermanent, then this is no longer a valid. So this is no longer a correct assumptions.
I understand that, but the thing is, all these correct assumptions, first of all, it is in the continuum of a person who has not ascertained sound is impermanent, right? So what they are trying to establish is that sound is impermanent, correct? But there is a problem with the reasoning, like either there was no reason, or it was an inapplicable reason, or indefinite reason, yeah? So the problem, but when we put here and we say, I'm just trying to check the terminology here, yeah? The example when it says, a mind apprehending sound is impermanent by the sign product in the continuum of a person who has not ascertained with valid cognition that sound is impermanent. All the person have not ascertained with valid cognition, right? That's why it's a correct assumption. But why is it highlighted here in the continuum of a person who has not ascertained with valid cognition that sound is impermanent? All of them have not ascertained. So I'm just wondering, is the product, although it is a correct reason, right? But in the continuum of this person, he has not ascertained, because we say it's a correct assumption with a correct but unestablished reason. So in the continuum of this person, he hasn't established this reason yet. So when you give the reason, although it is correct in actuality, but it doesn't prove anything to this person, because in this person's continuum, the fact that sound is a product or a product is an impermanent phenomena is not established. You get what I'm saying, Ken? My doubt?
Yeah.
So I'm just checking this word, yeah? When you say in the continuum of a person who has not ascertained with valid cognition that sound is impermanent. So I'm just questioning that last part, that sound in his continuum, that sound is impermanent. Or is it that in the continuum of this person, he has not ascertained that what is a product is necessarily impermanent? Or even that sound is a product?
Asukishla yijunga di yoro yijla. Yijunga ina di changma yangoni china yang kaza jamida ba de cheme mangye bi kangsarwa. Yijunga ngabode tangbo ina da niba ina da suma ina da. E 가르치니 참아데 ngabade. Eni di yang jamida ba cheme mangye bi kangsagi gyugi. Eni di dinde yang misigi di de alaba de sense karina. Yang na eni di kaza jamida ba chiming mangebe 강사기 교기로 야나디 가서 자 제발이 양만 chiming 망해봐 양나 애니디 제바 이나 미다바 잉월에 양 chiming 망해be 강사기 교기 된데 있나
타마디 로그에 준세 가스나 타마디 준세 안다 차 준세 안다 차와이자 다 셰다 다마다바 그 chiming 망해봐 로그에 준세 되래 다마다바 chiming 망해be 강사기 지라 그 준세 안다데 차례마도 그 준세 안다 셰바데 현다든가 준세 안다 줄 요마로 현다든가 준세 안다 지 요마 준세 안다 매바서다 이지단 장장 단다 타마들 셰바 다마다바 chiming 망해비 강사서 로그에 준세 가서 그 준세 안다 게 준세 안다데 게 자리 준세 안다데 이바코 단다데 시행마 땡라 포요 말했고 대 장지 뜻고리 이제 장지 자데 메타바레 나 이제 장지 관이 뭐마도 대고 근데 준시 안다게 고시바다 마다바도 준시 안다 계사데 강자데 준시 안다 순다다 제바 담가 지미 망해 가지고 그래 해서 그 미시 로가 주세데 제바데 준시 안다 현다 공간을 준시 안다 줄이 요 말 준시 안다 빌려 순다 이제 장 야가지 코로 이제 장지 관이 맞지 선호 당하지 마도 준시 줄이야마 담보는 준시 코로 요 말
이제 타마데 그래서 김세 요리 그 요경이데 그다디 제바 다디 양
양다레스
김세 양다라와
그 준시 안다 순다 제바다 지비다 담다바 지미 망이 강사 로가 주시데레스 지미 망이 지미 해서나 그 준시 안다 계사래 준시한다 계사리 고 이제 고 차로 오마라
So why do we why in the continuum of a person who has not ascertained with valid cognition that sound is impermanent is mentioned explicitly is mentioned whereas others they do not state that in the continuum of a person who has not ascertained with valid cognition, even though they are in the continuum of a person who hasn't ascertained with valid cognition, because the reason is because the first one, the reason is not even mentioned, and the second, third, and fourth, though reason is mentioned, but it is not a valid, it is not a correct sign or reason. The last one, in the continuum of a person who hasn't ascertained with valid cognition that sound is impermanent is mentioned is because the sign or the reason of being a product is mentioned, but but the person hasn't ascertained yet. Therefore, it is mentioned explicitly.
Ken, could you repeat the last part? What did you say? The sign is mentioned, but
the person hasn't ascertained it. Has not ascertained with valid cognition.
콜 셰바 안디 로월 간다 드라마타바 치미 망이비 강사기 주주스 라우가 주세를 가서 코데 말로바이나 메기 셰바의 준세 안다 케타 준세 안다 차 다디 마타데 셰바 이비 준세 안다 차 이 준세 안다 차자디 준세 안다 차자디 코 강사 대모 다 셰바 드라마타바 치미 망이비 강사 대기라 준세 안다데 케바레 대 준세 안다데 케바이나 코 준세 안다데 코티나 코에마 시야마 데마 시야스다 다디 마타바 what you just want to talk about the total Malaysian. Or did look at it.
Jiba, you say young, I need to Semiki at the Lapao.
Oh, Kansa did that on the Chanda Ibashim, or call Simi Mangi because of Gila. Look, Shenda Junsi and the Chun Royal. Junsi and the River Ijitan Kanda. And the Junsi and the Kaya Susan, Simi Mangi about the job.
Good, you can in it, Chiba, you say, and I invite shaking your money.
Oh, single Maria. Machine was the देखो जब शिपा जब चिमी मांगी भी खांसा जुजी से लोग जुजी तेरे से वाह ये लोग ये लोग जुजी गोरे में दे चिमी ये ते मालो बाई ना ते मां शिपा दे जुजी आना चाहता रहा
Yeah. So even though the reason is mentioned, a correct reason is mentioned, but the person do not know that it is a correct reason. So therefore, the words in the continuum of a person who hasn't ascertained with valid cognition that sound is impermanent is mentioned.
Ken,
I'm not
Ken,
convinced.
Ken. Pipin here. I just opened up the Pupujuk book and it's actually said that it's product. Can I read that? Or we go back and the Loric book, page 35. If I may read it. The fifth, this is the fifth, which is the correct, some may be correct, but unestablished reason. Here, Pupuchuk book 35, page 35, the fifth, correct, assuming consciousness for which a reason exists, but it's not certain. The use of word certain is, for example, an awareness that apprehends sound to be impermanent from the sign of being a product, without its having been ascertained by valid cognition. That sound is a product, and whatever is a product must be impermanent. This is from Loric book. So it's a product.
I think that's clearer because it's the reason that is unestablished. It's not that the sound is impermanent is not established, because for all, yeah, they have not ascertained with valid cognition. That's why we're talking of it as a assumption, a correct assumption.
I think it's a mistake of the translator. We can check it back.
In the text.
No, it's not. When SK may have missed a typo error or whatever, because it's exactly from. Anyway, we will check it out from the primary. We'll check it out from the primary source.
Primary source. Yeah. Any kind of thing is like. Tanda ini di kami tahu ceming mangi angkara. Moni cina ini dia kata ceba ta ceming mangi angkara. Ceba ta yang
大节了我的，节大节，大mangi angkara de lo。
Kaisna ini kan so ngoma de lori ge dipecha nalola without saying that valid without sound is a product. Yeah, ini kata lori nanti kata ja ceba imba, ini di ceme ge mangi ba.
Itu cina. Itu siapa lo? Dah siapa dah? Siapa mata bi? Siapa sini mangi bahasa de lo siapa le?
Ja ceba ta.
Itu siapa le? Dah siapa dah? Siapa mata bi le? Dah siapa sedang ngaji de Chokyi ke siapa? Bila dia dah siapa dah? Siapa mata bi? Siapa sini mangi bi? Itu sini mangi bi kanda jadi siapa le? Dah mata banci lo tak boleh. Dah mata banci lo tak. Siapa le? Dah mata banci. Siapa le? What is this?
Hello?
You better sorry, sir.
Ni kaya ke table ke siya? Mindu. Ini langsung. Ini di orang tu ikut di tanpa covid. Orang tu ikut sama covid. Jadi kalau di dah siapa dah, ini siapa minta apa? Ini di sini mangi apa? Ini di
sini mangi di kanda tu lah. Siapa? Tapi siapa ini siapa kerja na? Dia kanda tu jadi anda ada ini na. Jadi anda ini jadi nak macam siapa macam masih ada tu tak? Dah macam apa? Ijaz nanti macam tu tu orang macam siapa?
Dah siapa yang batang? Ini di cina ini di minta apa? Ini di sini di ni iyo marah. Sini mangi dah ini di dah minta apa? Yang di sini ni iyo marah. Yeah. So. Yeah, his laptop has run out of battery already. So yeah, basically, this is a person who hasn't ascertained with valid cognition that sound is a product. If it is a product, it's necessarily impermanent. So because of not ascertain this, then this person also do not ascertain that sound is impermanent because of being a product. Yeah. So how does the Loric text and the wordings here, how did they explain the same thing? The meaning is the same. Yeah. So yeah, sorry, time's up. We will stop here and we do dedication.
Yeah, 당가 그 저들 집tempo 지금 도와줘. 그래서 정말 좀 초기에 빈지 진짜가 사실 가는 수준. 때마다 너희들 고생이 좀 내번에 쇼핑도 되거든. 아무도 니하고서 받다 봐. 뉴도 도야 도와. 이렇게 하다 당가들 하봐도 먼저 반대로 까지 하봐줘. 저질로만 서버로 뭐지. 우리가 사무용도는 양식 주민 뉴도 해야. 뒤에 받치는 거 아니까. 와.
Yeah, we conclude with dedication. We dedicate the roots of virtue accumulated by Buddhist Dharma discussions may be a complete cause for Buddha Dharma to flourish and for all sentient beings to experience excellent happiness. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to all upholders of Buddha's teachings, mainly His Holiness the Dalai Lama. May they live eons long, excellent health. May their holy wishes and enlightened activities be accomplished instantaneously and be spread in all directions. And we also dedicate these roots of virtue to the world peace. May excellent happiness prevail the world. May the world be free of pandemic, wars, conflict, and disaster. And we also dedicate, in particular, we dedicate these roots of virtue to our kind beloved teacher, Gyaltsen Lama Zopa Rinpoche. May the holy wishes of Rinpoche be accomplished instantaneously. And may the unmistaken reincarnations of Rinpoche be swiftly returned. and continue to turn the wheel of Dharma so that we have the opportunity to continue to receive the Dharma teachings from Rinpoche again.
Dagi Junior
Sabi Kewa de Tendang Roa Kunla Kamben Dang Kewa Jetsun Lo Dang Rawa Yi Tembe Nimbo Rindo Seje Sho Tachu Sencho Rinpo Je Ma Ke Panda Ki Kyuji Yamba Me Bayang Kone Kondo Pewa Sho Jambe Bawe Jita Kemba Dang Kundo Sambo De Ande Shinde De Da Kunge Jeso Da Lo Je Adida Dang De Ra Do Ngo Tumi Tawa Rinpo Je Ma Ke Panda Ki Kyuji Keba Nyamba Me Bayang Kone Kondo Pewa Sho Rimi Tawa Rinpoche Ma Ke Pana Ki Kyuji Nyamba Me Bayang Kone Kondo Pewa Sho Je Sondo Ju Be Lang Chi Che Te Te Kan Chen Chen Ju Ke Chana Pe Mo Te Te Kya Sola Towa Le Do Ye Le Le Jo Sho Ne Kan Le Pen De Man Le Ba Kan Le Ju We Tam Be Yi Shin No Kari Tu Me Te Te Kya Sola Towa Le Do Tu Je Le Jo Sho Ye Temba Ke Te Nye Rang Do Lu Nang Ye Wa Yam Te Kyu Ba Je Ran Chang Ye Kya Yu Ma Lu Be Ten De Me Ba Ju Be Ke Le Zu Te Rinpo Che She Tang Ju Be Ti Je Be Wa Lam Nang Yang Me Shu Su Be Ko Cha Jen Tu Me Je Tse La Ma Tu Wa De Ine Ma Tu Jung We Ko Jen Bo Ye We Ten Da Ma Kyu Jo Wa Ye Ten La Ti Tu Tsen Ba Te Be Mo Lo Bo Shi Wa Te Te Ti Re Pa Jo Kya Tu Kya Tu Chin La Dang Ke Te Nang Ke Tu Ke La Bo Je Tu Me Ten Be Yang Pro Sa Be Tang Ke Tang Tu Je Be Tu Nyu Che Shu We Ko We Shin Han De Pen Dang De Wa Ma Lu Jung We Ni Chi Re De Wa Ten Te Kya Tu Yi Kya Pe Te Te Ba Tu Ten Yu